Hi everyone, welcome to Monday night with me. I just thought I would pop on and I would do a quick card. I'm loving this pick of a patch bundle so much that I've got more cards than I have time in my Facebook Lives to do. So I thought I would stop by tonight and just do an extra card for you. This particular bundle is so fun because, of course, you've got your pumpkins, you've got your sentiments, you've got a little jack-o'-lantern face, and I'm actually going to play with that tonight. But then you've also got your punch. So you can punch out, it's a build-a-punch, so you can punch out your pumpkins, your leaves, your stems. So a lot of fun. This is the card that we're going to be making tonight. This card was actually inspired by Rhonda Wade. I fell in love with it. I'm going to go a little bit different with it. Not a lot because I love this card so much, but I am going to go just a little different. But when you open it up, you can see it opens up to another card, and then of course you've got your inside. So this is the card that we're going to make tonight, and we're going to get started. Let me pull these out of the way. And I'm going to bring in the paper that we're going to use. So the base of the paper is going to be Cajun Craze. And I've got the measurements on each one of these. I'll go through them again as I start to use the paper. But we've got 11 by 4 1/4 of your Cajun Craze. Then you've got Pumpkin Pie, 10 by 3. You have some of the Them Bones Designer Series paper. This is cut 5 1/4 by 4. I've got, for the inside of the card, I've got some crumb cake, 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. Then I've got a piece of white that we'll stamp on, that's 2 1/2 by 4 1/2. I have a 3-inch circle that comes from the, I have it right here, the Stylish Shape Dies. It's a 3-inch circle, so I've already cut this out for us. So we've got that to work with today. And then to decorate the outside of the card, we've got another piece from the Them Bones Designer Series paper. And this particular one is 2 3/4 by 4. So let's go ahead and get started. And we'll talk about the measurements again as I work with each piece. But we're gonna start with the Cajun Craze piece. I've already cut it to 11 by 4 1/4. It's been scored on the long edge at 5 1/2. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take paper trimmer. We're gonna take the paper trimmer and we're actually gonna cut 2 1/2 inches off of one end. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in, line it up to 2 1/2 inches and cut that piece off. I'll put it off to the side. And then what we'll do is we'll fold this over. So this is how your card's gonna look. Now what we can do is we can take the Designer Series paper that we've cut at 2 3/4 by 4, move it off to the side, and we're going to adhere it down to the front of the card. So let me get my glue. All right, so let's move this. And we'll try again to get this adhered. So there we go. I love my little glue bottles because it's so concise as far as where I'm going to put my glue. And also you don't need very much glue when you're gluing things down. I know I've mentioned before in my previous recordings that I love the glue because with the glue I have some flexibility to move things around to make sure that I get them centered the way that I want them to be centered. So we've got the top piece adhered. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to the inside and I'm going to adhere another piece of Designer Series paper from the Them Bones series. This is cut to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So let's go ahead and get this one glued down. Line it up, move it around so that I make sure that I'm getting it even borders on each side. That looks good. And then before I go any further, I'm just going to set this off to the side. So this is just to get us started. The other piece that we're going to focus on now is the pumpkin pie piece. It's cut to 10 inches by 3 inches. And I'm just going to take and fold this in half. And I'll take my bone folder and finish that edge so we've got a nice flat edge. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some texture to it. So I'm taking the Stripe 3D embossing folder. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my little stamp, or excuse me, cut and emboss, my boho blue cut and emboss, which might I add is still available. If you go to our online store, you can get it in our online store. And then I'm just going to take the top of my folder, my cardstock, and I'm going to slide it into my folder. So I'm going to take it all the way to the edge, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn the closed edge of the folder, and I'm going to start with it and run it through my emboss, or my cut and emboss. So let me run this through quick. Almost there. Pull this out, push this off to the side. Pull these out. Open our folder. And now we've got the embossing. So you can decide, do you want it embossed or debossed? I actually want the debossed side on the outside. So I'm just going to go ahead and refold this just to make sure we've got it. I'm not going to press too hard because I don't want to flatten my embossing. But now I've got this piece. So now we're going to take the two inside pieces of this. The first one we're going to take is the 2.5 by 4.5 piece. And you'll see in the sample card that we've got a pumpkin stamped in here. So before we start adhering everything together, we have to do some stamping. So let me go ahead and bring my piercing mat over. It just gives a little bit more cushion for our photopolymer stamps. I'm going to pull out my pumpkin pie ink. Okay, my pumpkin pie ink. So we're going to go ahead and pop that up. I'm going to tap, make sure I've got good coverage. As I look at this, I'm going to test it out just to make sure we don't have any issues. Everything looks good. So I'll tap again, and I'm going to put the pumpkin in, basically the lower left-hand corner of this piece of cardstock. That will leave you plenty enough room to write your little message. So we've got that stamped now. Let me clean this off really quickly with my Simply Chamois. And I'm going to close up this ink, and we're going to get out the crumb cake ink, and we're going to stamp the little stem. So let me grab the little stem. Tap, tap, tap. Looks like we've got it. I'm just going to practice on this pumpkin. Yep, not very close though. I'm trying to keep in the window for you guys so you get to see. So now we've got our little stem for our pumpkin. So this will go on the inside of the card. Let me close this up. And now what we can do is we can adhere the white piece of cardstock. That was 2.5 by 4.5. We're gonna adhere it to the crumb cake layer that's 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. So let's go ahead and do that. Get this lined up the way we want it. Okay, very good. Then we're going to open up our pumpkin pie card, and we're going to layer this in. And center this. Okay, that looks good. Now, I will adhere this to the inside, but I'm going to wait just a minute, and I want to finish up some of the stamping that we're going to be doing for the outside of this card. So the first thing that we're going to stamp is well, let's go ahead and create the pumpkins, because I want to create the pumpkins so that we know where we're going to stamp our pick of the patch sentiment. And that sentiment actually is stamped in Cajun Craze. So we'll do that. And it looks like the pumpkin is also stamped in Cajun Craze, so it's a good thing that I went and got it. So I also brought in a few scraps. They don't have any measurements because they are scraps, but we're going to use a piece of basic white scrap, excuse me, to stamp the smaller pumpkin. So let's go ahead and do that. That looks good. I'm just going to test it. One thing that you'll notice when you are stamping your pumpkin, you want to look at your punch builder to see where you're going to have to punch it out. And so I know that this punch for this stamp is on this side of the punch builder. So I'm going to make sure that I stamp it over here. I'm just going to tap it a little bit more to wet the ink, and I'll go ahead and press this down. Oh, what I was going to say, if I hadn't already said it, is that when you are stamping, a lot of times the ink looks really dark, but you'll notice as the ink starts to dry that it dries a lot lighter. So let me go ahead and close this up. We'll use this again when we do the pick of the patch sentiment, but let's go ahead and put this in here. And what you're going to do is you're going to line it up inside so that basically the white border is even around the edges. And then as soon as you've got that, turn it over and punch. That way all of your little scraps fall onto your paper as well instead of going flying. So now we've got this little pumpkin, and then the other pumpkin is actually punched out of more of the designer series paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the designer series paper and put it on our punch. Doesn't even need to be lined up because we're punching out of the paper. And then I'll set this scrap aside, and now we've got our two pumpkins. So to go with the two pumpkins, you got to have little stems. So the stem is at the top of the punch right here. I've got a little scrap of crumb cake. So we'll put the crumb cake in, get it in there, punch out one stem, punch out two stems, and there we go. We've got our stems. So now I can take my glue and I can adhere the stems to our pumpkins. So we'll get this one done. I want to pull that one out just a little bit, maybe. Not a lot. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing to this particular pumpkin. Just a little bit. All right, and we're going to have this one tipping a little bit, maybe this way. Okay, so now we've got our two pumpkins. So I'm going to bring my circle back in, the 3-inch circle that we've got. I'm going to bring it back in. And I'm just going to layer the pumpkins here right for the moment. I'm not going to adhere them yet. I'm just going to layer them so that I get a good idea as to where I want to stamp my sentiment. So I have my sentiment here. I'm going to go ahead and use the Cajun Craze ink. We'll go ahead and tap this. Make sure I'm getting good coverage. I will test it up here. Very good. Okay, I think I want my pumpkins to go here. So my sentiment I'm going to put right up here. Straight down and up. Yay. Okay, now what we can do is adhere our pumpkins. So you'll see that the larger pumpkin, the pumpkin cut out of the designer series paper, is flat. So let's go ahead and put a little glue on the back of it. We'll go ahead and get it laid down on our circle. And then we're going to take dimensionals and we're going to put a couple on the little pumpkin. Pull those backs off. And adhere the pumpkin to, I don't want to get it too far over. Maybe I tilt it this way just a little bit, but we'll go ahead and adhere it there. Then we've got some thread. I'm losing the name of it right at the moment. Natural thread, woven thread. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a bow. I'm doubling it up and I'm making a bow. So the bow will be a little bit thicker. Okay. And once we've got this the way that we want it, then we're going to take our scissors. And I'm going to use my ribbon scissors, hence why I have a ribbon on the back of it. But I'm going to use my ribbon scissors to cut. My regular snips, typically by the time you've cut enough paper with them, you've dulled them. They still cut paper great, but they just don't cut ribbon so great. And they probably would do fine with thread, but I'm just going to go ahead and use my thread. And then I'm going to take out my glue dots and I'm going to take your pick and I'm going to put this dot right here at the base of this pumpkin. Sticky dot, sticky, sticky. And then what I can do is I can take my bow and I'll just place it right over the top. Okay. So now we've got our circle done. So now it's time to start adhering the rest of the card together. So let me remove this stuff out of the way. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to adhere our card within a card, if you will. And so basically, if you'll notice on this sample card, I lined the edge of the card up with the edge of the designer series paper. So we're just going to do the exact same thing. All you're going to do is glue down one side of it because you want it to open, obviously. So we'll go ahead and get this side glued down. Get it centered top to bottom in our card. That looks pretty good. Okay, we've got it centered, it's glued down. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue our circle down on top of the fold or the top flap. But we're only going to glue half of it and we're going to actually try to center it with our card insert that we have, the pumpkin pie card insert. So I'm just kind of looking at this. I can see that if I put glue right along here, I should be good and not get any glue on the rest of my card. So we'll go ahead and do this. I'm going to center this again just to be on the safe side. Looking at both, I'm going to turn it over. Yep, no glue. That's good. Make sure I've got this straight. And now we've got our circle adhered. There's only one more thing to do with this card, and that is to put our bling on. So I'm going to pull out the pastel adhesive backed sequins, and I'm going to put a couple of sequins on. So I'm going to put one up here. I'm going to do another one over here. And what I like to try to do is with my sequins or anything that I'm embellishing, I tend to do them in threes. That seems like a good odd number for me. And then I also try to follow a triangle pattern. So it can be a small triangle, big triangle, wide, skinny, however you want to do it. But now we've got our second card. This again was inspired by Rhonda Wade. And oh, I forgot I was going to go rogue and I was going to do one more thing and I forgot to do it. I'm going to do it. This isn't what I would typically practice because I like to do my stamping before I adhere, so I'm hoping that we're not going to have any issues with this. But I want to put a jack-o'-lantern face on my pumpkin, kind of like this pumpkin, and then I'm just going to adhere it like that. Oh, I love that. Okay, so let me move this out of the way. We're doing it on glue dots. Oh my goodness, I'm a little nervous because this isn't typically how I would do it, but we're going to try and see how we do. So I'm going to make sure that I'm pressing so that I get, oh, yay, it turned out just fine. So the first one I made does not have the jack-o'-lantern, but the second one I made does have the jack-o'-lantern, and this jack-o'-lantern is the pick of the patch. So there you go. I'm having so much fun with this bundle. Let me bring it back in so you can see it again. Let me close things up and clean things up a little bit so that you can see the cards better. And of course the bundle better. So we've got the 2 cards that we did. And then you've got the Pick of the Patch stamp set, and you have the Pick of the Patch stamp builder all together. So if you're interested, you can certainly go out to my store and look. I'll put that in the description. In the meantime, we're going to be doing more with the Pick of the Patch stamps and stamp builder this coming Thursday. Maybe it's October 26th, this Thursday. And we'll be doing more with the Pick of the Patch, and this time we're actually going rogue, and we're going to use the stamp set and the punch, but we're taking fall and going rogue with the colors, and Pretty Peacock is going to be one of the main colors that we're using. So thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy and you get a chance to make this card as well, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Thanks again. Bye everyone.